What is up, ladies and gentlemen? But most of all, you ladies out there, thanks for clicking on another episode of Break the Silence. I am your host, Cyborg. Bunch of good games tonight. Let's talk about them. Split count! Another awesome night in the NBA as we are getting so used to this season. It has been an incredible season of basketball with so many great performances. And the great thing about this season is all the parity, all the unexpected performances. And we are going to talk about a couple of those tonight. There were two games we're focusing on. The Utah Jazz taking down the Atlanta Hawks, both teams that were performing well to start the season, and the Brooklyn Nets taking down the New York Knicks in the Battle of New York. I want to talk about both of those games because there's so much to get to, especially from the Nets perspective and the Utah Jazz. The Jazz I haven't talked about this season yet because I didn't know what to make of them, but we're going to break them down a little bit tonight. First, please take a second to like and subscribe to the channel. You see, we just passed 500 subscribers, and I thank y'all so much. But we're headed for 6. We're going to keep grinding, keep growing. Appreciate y'all. Let's start with this Utah Jazz and Atlanta Hawks game here. In NBA history, there have been some fantastic players that wore the number 23. We think of Draymond Green. We think of Jason Richardson. We think of Marcus Camby, CJ Miles, a bunch. Ben Hasbro, Tyler Hasbro's brother, if you remember Tyler Hasbro, all wore the number 23. And I think there's a few more I might be forgetting. But this Lauri Markkanen for the Utah Jazz wearing number 23 might be the best number 23 of all time. And yes, I know that LeBron and Michael Jordan wore 23. That was the joke. But Lauri Markkanen for the Utah Jazz, I simply don't know what to make of it. I don't know what to make of a guy. Tonight he had 32 points and 8 rebounds. And this is like an every night thing for Lauri Markkanen. Right now he has himself in, for sure, the most improved conversation. But if this Jazz team keeps winning, is he like a fringe MVP candidate? Right now he's averaging 22 points and 9 rebounds. And obviously that's not quite good enough to win MVP. But tonight he had a monster game. And this is becoming so common for Lauri Markkanen as he hit 6 threes tonight. This Utah Jazz team is so interesting and so feisty. Now, I had a big discussion with a Utah Jazz fan tonight. Spent a lot of time talking about it because for me, I did not understand, I still can't understand what Danny Ainge's vision was with this Utah Jazz team. How he trades away 4 of his 5 starters from last year, including 2 All-Stars, Bojan Bogdanovic, who's a good player, and Royce O'Neal, who's starting for the Brooklyn Nets. How he trades away 4 guys that are legitimate players, and the team is better with all the draft picks he got? Did he expect this team to be good? Was he trying to tank? What do we make of this team? I'm interested to see your thoughts because I had a long discussion about this. Because if I was a GM in the NBA, my goal, I would sit down and say, what's our plan to win a championship in the next 4 years? Because sometimes you're given bad teams, whatever circumstances you're given. But what's our plan of action for the next 4 years? The Utah Jazz, to me, you get all these assets, all these players. To me, I thought for sure that this team was going to tank and try to get either Victor Wembanyama or Scoot Henderson, one of those 2 picks. And then you have all these assets and you build around a generational talent like one of those players. Danny Ainge only did not do that. He somehow created a team that's very, very good. Now, the ceiling of the Utah Jazz remains to be seen. That's something that I don't think you can really determine after 13 games of the season. In my mind, I'm wondering if the Jazz are now going to make a push for a star player to bring in for a big playoff series. You know who it reminds me of a little bit? The Seattle Seahawks in the NFL. Geno Smith was a guy who was written off, not expected to be very good, and came in and is playing like an MVP candidate. At what point do you believe in Geno Smith? At what point do you believe he's actually a good quarterback? Has he got you to that point yet? Or are you still up in the air? Do you need to see more? With this Utah Jazz team, they are now 10-3, number one in the Western Conference. What more do we need to see to think that this team's a good squad? It is very well constructed. It has players playing out of its mind. Jordan Clarkson's having an excellent season. He had 23 tonight. And then Mike Conley fits right in. Mike Conley was bad last year. Like, a lot of these guys they weren't stars last year. So how was this team so perfectly constructed to where it's now a really, really good NBA team? Mike Conley tonight had 13 assists. That's very good. Malik Beasley had 18. Walker Kessler off the bench had 12 and 3 blocks. He's a blocking machine. This Utah Jazz team is becoming must-watch TV. They're just a good basketball team. They play the right way. They shoot the 3-ball good. They defend hard. I really like this Utah Jazz team, and I don't know the ceiling of it. That remains to be seen. But if Danny Ainge traded for all these assets and created a winner, this is simply the greatest offseason in NBA history, in my opinion. That's all there is to it. If he somehow trades away all your stars, all your starters, for a team that was the number 1 seed 2 years ago and gets better, greatest offseason by a GM that I can remember or write down. Let's move on because I want to talk about the Atlanta Hawks for a little bit because we're going to talk a lot more Jazz this season because that's a team that's going to be must-watch TV for me. The Atlanta Hawks brought in Dejounte Murray this offseason and started the season very hot. They're now 7-4 after losing tonight. They're a team that I really, really like. Now, the chemistry between Dejounte Murray, Trae Young, John Collins, DeAndre Hunter was something that was going to be interesting. Will that fit together? Will they clash because Dejounte and Trae have kind of similar styles? That was the question that we were asking. They seem to be a great fit, Trae Young and Dejounte Murray. Tonight, Trae had 22 points, 9 assists, and Dejounte had 26 points and 5 assists. Now, Trae Young was wildly, wildly inefficient tonight. 10 of 28, and you got to give some credit to the Jazz defense, but also Trae Young does have these nights where he just, he maybe makes a deep 3, but then he misses 14 in a row. And it's like, Trae Young is a very good basketball player, but this Hawks team only goes as far as Trae Young takes him because now he has the pieces around him. He has the pieces to compete in the Eastern Conference. To me, this is a top 4 team in the East. You're talking about the Bucks, Cavs, Celtics, and Atlanta Hawks. And if Trae Young can be consistent for a playoff series, I think this team could be really dangerous because Dejounte Murray's fantastic. Defensively as a guard, he's very, very good. He's very athletic. He's good with his hands. And I love watching Dejounte Murray play basketball. This Atlanta Hawks team, the thing that I keep saying, DeAndre Hunter's the X factor. If he can develop into a quality NBA starter, borderline all-star kind of player, I think this team's ceiling is the Eastern Conference Finals. But if he doesn't get there, then I'd imagine that they get bounced in round 2 by one of those other 3 teams. That's the question we got to ask with the Atlanta Hawks. I really like the way they're playing, though. This is not an anti-Hawks take at all. It's just we got some questions, and hopefully we'll get some answers as the season goes along. Again, everything we're talking about, it's still so early in the basketball season, so much can change. Your rosters can change, all those sorts of things. I want to move on briefly to the Battle of New York between the New York Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets. Now, this was a big game, as it always is, because the New York Knicks thought that they were getting KD and Kyrie a couple years ago, and obviously that fell through. So every time KD plays the Knicks, it kind of feels like a slap in the face, like, I'm just going to show you what you missed out on. Especially because it was reported that the Knicks wouldn't offer Kevin Durant a max contract, which is one of the most wild things you've ever heard. Now, I want to talk for a second. Kyrie Irving didn't play, and he's been suspended for multiple games. The Brooklyn Nets in that span are now 3-1. Kevin Durant's playing out of his mind, and Steve Nash was fired. So When you're talking about the Brooklyn Nets, a team that started the season so poorly, 2-6, do we think that they're better because Kyrie's not there? Do we think that they're better because Steve Nash is not there? Now, Kyrie Irving, talent-wise, is one of the best players in the NBA. But team chemistry-wise and drama off the court things, I would say that really, really hurts team chemistry. Kevin Durant, to me, and Kevin Durant's so overly hated. I want to hit on Kevin Durant for a second here. Not hit on him like, pause. But I want to talk about Kevin Durant here for a second. Kevin Durant going to Golden State told us there are two main points I want to make of that. One, the fact that Kevin Durant can fit into any system and the way that he blended in so beautifully to Golden State is such a testament to how right Kevin Durant plays basketball. He's just a guy that wants to hoop. He's a guy that loves basketball. And tonight had 29 points, 12 assists, and 12 rebounds. I like the Brooklyn Nets best when Kevin Durant has the ball in his hands. So Kevin Durant is just one of those guys that I just, run through him. Make Kevin Durant's usage rate go up. It's they had a stat from last season that Kevin Durant, it was a second level stat that combined difficulty of shots combined with the efficiency in which you make said shots. Kevin Durant combined had the most difficult shots and highest efficiency on those difficult shots. On the other end of the spectrum, Russell Westbrook had the most open shots and shot them at by far the lowest percentage. So Kevin Durant is a tough shot maker. He's a great passer. That's the thing that gets so overlooked about Kevin Durant. He had 12 assists, and that leads me to my second Kevin Durant point. The fact that he went to Golden State. Obviously, there's so much to say there, but it kind of took away the big performances that he had against Milwaukee in that playoff series. Those games that he would have 45 or 50 and just be unbelievable. He didn't need to have those games in Golden State. He needed 30 on efficient shooting, Steph Curry to come along with him. And so we kind of missed out on some of peak Kevin Durant's games that I kind of wish we would have had the opportunity to see. And Kevin Durant, I'm not here to hate on him at all. I think he's a fantastic basketball player. I would love to see this guy in a better situation. I think he's had a pretty rough career when you're talking about playing with Russell Westbrook. And Russell Westbrook was a quality NBA player, but he's a hard guy to play next to. And then Golden State obviously was fantastic, but he loses a little credibility because of how good that team was. And now in Brooklyn, there's just so much going on. And Kevin Durant, people try to psychoanalyze Kevin Durant. But to me, he's just a guy that wants to hoop. He's just a guy that loves to play basketball. And I really hope that the Brooklyn Nets move on from Kyrie Irving. I hate to say it, but the joy that I feel like I saw Kevin Durant playing basketball with, and the joy he gets when he's just out there hooping, that's what I want to see from Kevin Durant. That's what I love. That's what we love about basketball in general, just seeing guys who love the game, who are passionate about the game, and are really, really talented. And that's who Kevin Durant is, and I hope that's what the rest of the season can be about, because we don't got that much longer of Kevin Durant. He's nearing the end of his career. I want to see more prime Kevin Durant, so please, Brooklyn Nets, don't mess this up. Please help my guy out. Let's touch briefly on the New York Knicks before we hop out of here tonight. And again, appreciate y'all watching. Don't forget to subscribe. But the New York Knicks are exactly who I thought they'd be. They're exactly who I thought they'd be, right in the middle of the pack. They're all right on some nights. They're kind of poor on other nights. I don't know what they're doing with this roster, and I'm pretty frustrated because when I talked about if I was an NBA GM, what I wouldn't do is make a big three, making a lot of money of R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, and Jalen Brunson, and you're paying Evan Fournier a lot of money. I just don't know what your thought process was there. Evan Fournier is not a very good basketball player. Brunson I like, but he was 4 of 14. R.J. Barrett, I'm a little disappointed. I kind of was hoping he would take a step forward this year. Thus far, doesn't look like he has. And Julius Randle kind of is what he is. He's 20 and 10 kind of guy. I'd like to see him as a third option on a good team. because I think that that's more the role he's suited for, not the number one option. And that's perfectly okay. There are plenty of guys like that. Kevin Love was unbelievable in Minnesota before he got traded to the Cavs. Statistically was unreal. But when you actually looked at it, his game was more suited to be a second or third option. So that's what I think we need to see from Julius Randle. I don't think that this Knicks team is going to be a real contender. I do think they'll be in the play-in tournament. So I think they have a chance to make the playoffs. We'll have to see health-wise with some teams how that ends up, whether they're closer to 7 or closer to 10. But that's the range that they'll be in. I've hit on the Knicks a couple games. I just don't love it. But that's all we got tonight. Appreciate y'all watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Cyborg out.